Red is on.
Red is on, as Joe would say. It also reminds me to shut my phone down.
Okay, so, weird sound, test. Good evening and welcome to Thursday, January 23rd, 2020, Selectmen's meeting. We could all rise and say Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've got in our folders some of the minutes for Thursday, January 16th. Well, review those.
On page 1, Selectman Dawson, last sentence, she asked about the energy audit, noting a concern with some of the pricing. I did mention that some of it was high priced, but my main concern was that, well, it wasn't really a concern. I felt that we should implement some of the items listed on that, such as the LED bulbs. And I did mention that there were some things, huge cost, but we could work on the others. Thank you.
Huh? Doesn't matter.
On page 2, just above finance, IT director, where it says brief discussion of the stump grading. Could we just include in there, and I think Jeannie told us that the reason they couldn't grind the stump was because they couldn't get their equipment across the bridge and the crane had left. It just kind of makes it, leaves it hanging the way it is.
Just explains why.
Thank you. Also, our minutes don't reflect our audience in attendance.
Unless they sign in and say their name, and I have no clue. who's
That's
in that.
right.
You're not a mind reader?
The
I know.
camera doesn't.
That's
Pan
right.
around?
So,
We gotta get the IT guy to get a turntable for us so I can periodically
well,
span the big audience.
Sweet. So,
and I'm bringing it up because we noted in the budget committee meetings the same thing, that there are people missing, like the secretary or something, and some of the minutes did mention her. Yeah, how would we do that better? Should the chair make sure that we capture?
The chair could recognize that person and ask them to state their name and or address if they prefer.
Okay, because
I mean, if they comment or if they're just here.
if they're just here in attendance, because I kind of looked around last night for the sign-in sheet, but I didn't find it.
Oh, okay, it's usually people, yeah.
So maybe it should be kept on the table. I'm just thinking how to make that work.
We can put audience member, you know,
No, how we would track it so the person doing the minutes would actually know.
You have a sign, back in the day, Catherine
There's a notebook
Wozner
with
had
a
a
signage
clipboard with a sheet.
Yeah, there's a notebook with a sign-in sheet that should be on there.
Well, we should keep that on the table,
That's fine.
wherever it is.
And
It's
then
up
just
there.
check it and see who signed in and who was here.
Okay. Thank you.
Should we make some comments and quite a few people attended or something?
Pardon?
Should we put something in the minutes saying there was a good audience of
Well, so,
House or
Jules is gonna
Yeah.
come up and speak to us, so she'll be captured. And, if other people come just to watch, we've had that happen and they don't speak unless they sign in, the secretary has no way of knowing they're here. But they should be recognized.
Well, I think we should mention that there were people in attendance in the minutes.
I wouldn't exaggerate.
No, I
I think
would
there should be
When you
less.
take out the account of those on the committee and all, I think there were less than 10, so just don't say it's a packed audience.
Well, the point is, I think that people should be credited for attending.
No, I have no problem with that, but I don't want to make it sound like we had,
So
you know, half of them.
Thousands?
Yeah, you know,
the
it's-
chair can also mention that, because people may not know to sign in, but if he sees audience, he can say, please make sure you sign in the local people you bring.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if we have it up here to remind us.
so can we put in the minutes for last week that there were many people were in attendance?
And you would like that.
it's under the
When we
PD public
open the-
hearing, I think.
When we open up the bond article, public hearing,
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
We didn't have anybody sign in.
anything else? You want to make the motion to accept the minutes? I'll make it. I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second?
In a second. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
So moved. Next thing we've got some donations here. I'd like to thank James Narkowitz, trustee, for Teresa N. Snyder Trust, for a donation of $1,000.
We already did that.
No, we did.
No, this is a new one.
He's in there.
For a PD?
Yes.
Okay.
For the police department, Operation Warm. So we need to vote on accepting that. I'll make a
Second.
motion that we accept it.
Second. What is
Second.
Operation One?
It's similar to the Tilton Northfield Santa Fund where they raise money, it should say on their joint, where they raise money for the union raises for that program.
Oh,
So somebody needs an extra ad or, well, it's
oh,
part of
yeah,
it.
we did that, that's nice.
Any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Opposed? So that's unanimous. We also have another donation of $100 from Bruce and Jean Thompson for the Senior Center of Tilton for curtains.
Make a motion, we accept the donation for $100 for the senior center with much gratitude.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Next thing we have Tim Tierson is with us this evening.
I'll be very brief because I know you're running tight on time. I have just 3 items to go over. They're in your, it should be in your packets in my report. The first item is related to our borrowing for 2020. It's the time of year when we put together our tax anticipation note. And if you recall, we negotiate a line of credit tax anticipation note, so we draw down as we need it, we pay it back as we have it, and so that we minimize the interest expense during the year. We have been utilizing our primary bank for this because it's very easy to transfer funds back and forth even on a daily basis to that. So in any event, I have a recommendation, and this is at a lower rate than our rate last year. So this is to approve an increase of, going, last year we borrowed $2.5 million. This year we're looking to borrow $3 million because of the additional projects that are going to probably anticipating could stress our cash flow, but keep in mind, we only pay the interest on what we borrow and use. So, but this prevents us from running to the end of our line and needing to extend it at some point during the year, which would be difficult. So, in any event, I'm recommending a $3 million line with an interest rate not to exceed 2.37% through Franklin Savings Bank. And if you're in agreement, I provided a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I move that the town initiate a $3 million line of credit tax anticipation note with Franklin Savings Bank with a rate of interest not to exceed 2.37%.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Recall the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you. The second item, it says budget changes, it should really say warrant article change. So the Jeannie will be presenting to you tonight the engagement letter for the Divine Milliment, which is the bond counsel, which would be our bond counsel for both of those warrant articles that have bonds. If they both pass, we'll be looking at a total fee in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $9,000 because a lot of the work that's done for one would be duplicated to the other. And a lot of it is, investigating prior approvals of things, our finances, community debt, that type of thing that's required. So in any event, the individual fees are $7,500 for the police building, and they have a range of $5,000 to $7,000 for the sewer bond. So as that money for the sewer bond, and we just got this engagement letter, so we're recommending that we put a raise and appropriate language into the sewer bond article for $7,000 for the sewer bond council. So, in other words, if it were not to pass, obviously that there's no raising and appropriating the money. And at one point, Gina and I discussed whether that would be more appropriate to be budgeted through the sewer commission, but again, it's directly related to this article. The engagement letter is one that the Board of Selectmen signs, and the note of the bond will eventually be done as the Board of Selectmen signing that as well, since it's paid for through by taxation for the town. So
So, I have a question. The fee for the bond, if that were paid directly by the sewer commission, what would be included in this?
well, so it is not being contracted by the sewer commission, it's being contracted by the Board of Selectmen.
That's semantics.
Well,
But it's not, if the sewer commissioner pays that commission, and we haven't discussed it, so I'm just saying, if the sewer commission pays that fee out of their funds, because it's an expense generated by sewer,
well,
it's not part of the construction costs, which
Well,
are,
yes and no. Generally, when we go for grants and loans and stuff, it does get figured, any of the construction early on comes back in also.
yeah, the sewer commission could always vote to refund that to the town.
I just didn't want to add any more to budget.
Right, well, and this actually prevents that, so you don't have to budget it within the sewer commission. It's tied directly to the passage of this warrant article. So if the warrant article passes, the money is available. If it doesn't, there's nothing to take out of the budget. So it's clean this way. And I have provided you with a sample motion if you so choose.
I move that we authorize the town administrator to add the ERA appropriate language to the proposed sewer bond warrant article to raise an appropriate sum of $7,000 for bond counsel services.
Second.
Any other discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And the very last item, just to give you a very brief status update from the Budget Committee last night, is that the Budget Committee approved all the money warrant articles with the exception of the collective bargaining agreement article and then the sewer warrant article. They wanted to have more information on the sewer warrant article, and knowing that there was a public hearing this next week on the 30th, they opted to wait to vote on it until their public hearing on the 5th of February. So, and Selectman Dawson may speak more on that later, because we were both there last night. So, with that, unless anyone has anything for me, that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you very much.
Yes, we're right on schedule. Come on down, Jimmy. See if we can get you some, microphones. That one works.
I sent a PowerPoint, I'm not sure if anybody, yeah, great, head of the game there. So I
Thank you.
spent a lot of time trying to draw this up, and I kind of came to the conclusion, I just need to ask your advice on how to word this, because the Main Street Committee has voted and decided that they would like to ask the town, they would like to put in 10 poles, and to mitigate the tax impact on the citizens, they thought it would be feasible for us to raise half that money through private donations of, asking people to donate a pole, to put money towards the pole. So with that being said, then we would ask the town for the money for the 5 poles. And I've kind of outlined what it is here. Each pole, just the pole itself, is $3,340. So, and that is with all the accessories. So we have that. Where I got this, just a quick background, is I shopped around and I asked other town administrators about their polls. These are, this is what Bristol used. They had an engineer, Mike Vignali, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Plymouth uses him as well. And he came up with this whole design for these poles that you see in Bristol. And I got some pictures of Bristol poles. Anyway, they're a little bit more hardy than the other poles that I was looking at. As a matter of fact, in Plymouth today, we were talking about replacing the poles they had because they were probably a little bit, they were thinner metal, cast aluminum. Here's a Bristol example of some of the Bristol ones. So that's where we get that figure from that. So my question to you, I guess first, before we even get into how we're going to word this for the warrant article, or if you, as a board, will recommend it or not, is how do we ask your board for the money for the poles? Should we ask for the whole amount for 10 poles with the hope of getting half of that back, or do we ask for half that money? That is what I did not recommend. I was like, I gotta talk to them because I don't.
Have you asked Jeannie if this is something that would qualify under the Moose Grant?
I've asked about grants in general.
Okay.
I didn't ask about the Moose Grant in particular. There is Eversource will give you money back for LED projects. So I already talked to the Eversource people. They would give us a percentage back, 30% back for LED projects. Even if, especially since it's a new installation.
Would this would not utilize the electric that we just put in underground, correct?
Who
Well,
knows, you gotta get
That's what
power
I
to it
thought it
somewhere.
would. That's what my plan was.
My understanding is when they ran the lights, the electrical for the lights on the trees, they also ran conduit, and I believe there's wire in it for the
They
possibility of
anticipated it.
anticipating a phase.
Yeah,
We would
'cause that's
have
what we
to-
discussed
We
last
would have
time.
to talk to the Public Works Director to concur that that actually took place. From my understanding that that's what was gonna happen.
That was my next question, because I actually spoke to that JP, the Carter guy, Mr.
Josh.
Carter, Josh, today, and I also spoke to Kevin Duval, and he said that he would not be doing the installation. But we could go through, Sternberg, which is the manufacturer, the people that we're buying these poles from. They would recommend somebody for installation, but Josh did say that he can do the whole installation. This is where I get confused on the second part, because he said he ran the conduit, but he didn't pull the wires, which that is the.
That's fine, you can blow a
Oh,
line.
yeah,
Did
oh,
you
you can pull
Well, I
wires through.
thought the town paid for wires.
No,
No.
because he wouldn't even know what we're gonna be connecting the right type of wires
Oh,
or
okay,
anything.
so that was like for the future, but.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
it would have been an extra cost, because the original project was just for electrical and conduit
For the
for the
trees.
trees.
Oh, okay.
So it was almost
That's why I
a,
asked the question.
Yeah, that's where I.
since we already have the whole dike, it doesn't cost that much more to put the conduit in.
Yeah, so I beat him up a little bit today trying to get a ballpark figure of what that was gonna cost, just anything, and he was just like, not gonna give me it, like when they're bought or
He
when they're
needs to know
approved.
what they
And I'm like,
require.
okay, this is getting to be a chicken and an egg situation where I'm just like, I can't
It's
get,
hard to give a price unless you give him specs, because
right.
he can come with one, oh, no, that's not what I wanted, so until he has something, he's
Right,
gonna
I
say.
gave him the wattage.
I got it on the
and
slideshow
stuff,
here.
but that wasn't enough, so. So, going back to the first question about 5%.
I have some more questions
confuse you.
on just that whole conduit and that. Where with the meter socket and service location, we don't have one established yet, right?
It would be the same one that we use for the
Lights.
lights for
And
trees.
that's in this building?
No, that's on, was it rescue or Tryon? The street
Tryon.
that goes in to
Right,
Center Street.
Tryon,
Try on.
Tryon,
So it's all, the conduit's already
Yes.
run to there?
Yep.
Okay, great. That's a big,
Right, yeah, I mean,
Cost.
Catherine was instrumental
thinking
in,
ahead.
right, yeah.
knowing that this could be a possibility and pushing for it last summer it was, right, yeah.
That's what I said, it was kind of a precious thing.
The other thing, is this both sides of the street or?
So for now, this is just one side. We're trying to get, the public-private partnership thing going, and we'll be asking businesses to buy some of these poles. These poles they can be bought with a small plaque that will say who's donating.
So one pole, so could there be several people on one pole?
I don't see.
You sell different size plaques. The $100 plaque, the $500 plaque, the
Well,
whole.
it's gotta fit on the pole.
Yeah.
I know, at some point, you're just gonna be like, this.
So one pole costs $3,340 unless you,
I'd say we're probably closer to 4,500 to 5, because you've got to put a foundation footing in.
but for
Is
a
that
donation, I'm saying, so for $4,500, okay, so unless you pony up $4,500, there may be a group or a couple of groups that will say, you know what, I can do $2,500, for instance, give me an example. Maybe the Rotary will say, you know what, I'd like to go in $2,500, and maybe the Elks might go in $2,500, and now you've got two that may be able to do that, so.
Peter?
Yeah, 10 poles at 33,400, there's no installation, so I'm saying when we're done, it's probably going to be 45,000 to 50,000.
articles too, yeah.
for the total
Yeah.
cost, so that's not a correct cost, so if
That
you're gonna
isn't.
write an article,
Did he,
I would not,
right, did you give that to, JP and say, here's Sternberg lighting, da-da-da, here's the exact pole that I want, and did he give you an estimate for installation?
No, then we got into he said that there wasn't even wiring.
So if he
And
pulled
I
the
was like,
wire,
well, I don't know, I can't tell you what the town wants for wiring.
well, the wiring needs to be what he would recommend to put these poles in. So if we called and said, you know what, we wanna have 10 poles on the sidewalk on downtown Main Street. This is the pole we want with LED lighting, and the conduit is there. How much is it gonna cost to pull the wire, the recommended wire, and installation of this particular light, and get an estimate from him? Now, times that by 10, or he gives you 10, the whole, then you add that to the actual project cost. Now you've got the whole project. Now we need a warrant article that says, do you want to increase this, do you want to raise and appropriate these monies, which could be offset by grants and or donations. Then you have now until March to gather up.
This is a special warrant article, it's money. The budget committee is having their first public hearing on February.
So it needs to be a petition? You're saying a petition?
Well, they have until the second, no, wait.
there's a
Shoot
time
out.
crunch.
Really, you've got until next week.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, you got till.
Next week,
Right,
right.
if she gets till next week and gets this information from JP,
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have until March, you've got until next
February
week.
4th
Right.
is the deadline.
And
Okay.
the board of
February,
selectmen.
yeah.
right,
February 4th.
maybe you misunderstood what I was saying. Once she has all the numbers,
Yeah.
and we have a warrant article, now she has until, when she says, and or grants or donations, once the warrant article is placed and we have a public hearing, we have until March to gather and get the grants and donations, so at town meeting, you can stand up and say, I already have this much to this warrant article. People have already submitted a pledge for this amount of money.
Okay,
The
so
other
we have
thing-
to actually come up with those pledges.
You can come up with
But
the
I mean,
amount and do the warrant article, and on the floor at the town meeting, ask to amend that number. So if you started
okay.
higher or something now, get as close as you can. You
Right.
can amend it on the floor of the town meeting,
But you're talking,
especially going down and
so you're
Or you
talking
can-
about raising on your own $25,000, that's not chicken feed, so.
Right.
If it takes place, that'd be great. So essentially what you need to know is, you need to get the specifications for the wiring requirements for the lamp pole you
Right.
want.
Right,
Not just, I want
absolutely, yeah.
this lamp pole. Get the
Mhm.
specifications from the company. Get them to Josh Carter
Right,
and tell him you need this before
such and such a
Thursday.
date.
Right,
Right.
I can
I
do
would
that,
I
and
would tell him
that's
you need it before.
not, that is,
And make sure it includes the installation of each pole
right.
and running the wires.
Okay,
Through
two
the
other
conduit.
questions though. It's
Concrete
dependent
footing.
on concrete footings. Would you know anybody who wants to do the concrete footings, because he's an electrician?
I don't know anybody who's concrete.
I know, that's what I thought.
That's not the issue, it's the
But-
excavator.
And that's
So-
the other thing is, do you?
So you need those specifications.
So, do we need
And my
digging?
suggestion to you would be to contact Cohen Concrete. They are an outstanding concrete
Oh, you
company.
got, you guys wanna do it?
Well, Boston's Concrete is now currently with Mons doing concrete work, so.
Wow, Cullen, so Cullen Concrete?
Cohen,
Okay.
they're an excellent company.
All right, so I have to get
There's small
that,
farms.
the footing price, and then the wiring, are you,
But you need to get the specifications on what is required
right.
for the footings for these. It might be just a
No,
sonnet.
I can get all that, but the part about like the wires coming actually to that location,
Josh Carter would do that.
Yeah,
and the town is already preparing to pay for that?
No, this is
That will
part
be
of your
all
estimate.
part of
Part
the
of your
mo-
part.
they'll all be
You've got to come to
The
us
Conduit
with a
was
total
put
cost.
in
Once you-
anticipation of this
Okay,
project.
so
Once
that's
you
fine.
have that,
That's what I
then we
wanted to
can
know.
put together the warrant article, but we
Right.
can't put together the warrant article with,
Right.
with numbers, we just can't pull the numbers out of the,
I know, and he's saying, I'm not gonna give you the numbers until it's passed, or we've already bought the things, or whatever, so,
What you tell him is you'd like a budget estimate for
Yeah.
the town meeting.
I did,
And with these, and here are the, with no specs, he's not gonna give you anything, because
I
You
know.
just tell them
No, I
they
know.
can't go, we can't create a warrant article if we don't know the cost.
Right.
It takes a lot of time to prepare an estimate, so I can understand why he,
Yeah, no, he won't even do the ballpark. Okay, so in the warrant article, though, I
I
should
can't
ask
imagine that he
Paul
wouldn't do that. I mean, you just, it's probably the way in which you're presenting it. I think that you need to say that we need to prepare it for the warrant article so that we can present it to the town meeting.
Okay, yes, I did. Okay, so I should be, for the warrant article, asking for all 10 polls, even, and then in there,
Yes.
say, with these other factors here. Okay.
Which may or may not be offset with grants and donations.
Okay.
Right. And then, at that time, when you get to town meeting, if you have grants and donations to offset that, so say you come up with a company that has grants that will offset that, or somebody that's come up and said, I'd like to buy a pole, Tangarella comes up and says, I'd like to buy a pole, now you can amend it on the floor at town meeting and say, I'd like to amend it by this amount of money, because two businesses have stepped up and they'd like to purchase. And now we have this much money to raise.
you'll have a better chance of getting it passed if town meeting sees that you've actively gone out and fundraised and that people are willing to help pay for it.
Oh, sure, I hope so, yeah.
I can give you some names that may purchase a pole. Right.
Should we, does anybody object if we ask Jeannie to kind of have a template warrant article without the costs in it ready?
I think that's a good idea.
I don't want
What do you
that.
mean with it?
Well, it's, she can write a warrant article and just leave out for X amount of money,
So the
just like,
conduit that was run, was it run specifically for these lights and the stuff sticking up, or does he have to dig down
So-
and tap into that conduit?
my understanding is that when they put them in, so.
it's gonna be in that trench you see going down the road, we're gonna have to dig to
Yeah.
that,
When they put
on
it
the new
in,
sidewalk, cut
They
the
were-
pavement,
they were
wherever they're
supposed to
going.
have specific locations of where exactly it is. So they don't have to dig up this. They
where
know the pipe
conduit
is there.
Yeah.
There are no stubs sticking.
I don't know if they did use GPS or they triangulated or what, but they specifically were supposed to know where it
So
was.
they'll have to dig
Yeah.
up the sidewalk and put new splices into the conduit.
Would you do that? You'd have to do that to put the pole in.
Well, the foundation for the pole too.
Exactly. So it's not like the
Okay,
conduit is already set up for the poles yet, so you'll have to.
They haven't been brought to daylight.
So do I have to get a quote on actually digging, or does the concrete company kind of,
If the concrete company is installing them, when you talk to them, is this include installation, the excavation, they'll tell you.
so
Make
it's-
sure you, yeah, make sure when you talk to them, your expectation
Yes.
is, and they do the excavation.
Okay. Okay. All right, I will draw that up.
So the diagram that we got a few weeks ago shows 5 locations. And is it my understanding you're putting all 10 on this side of the street and none on the other side? I know this sidewalk down here is too narrow, but when you get up closer to Tilton House, it widens out. There's a possibility of putting some over there at a later date, because we haven't redone the sidewalk. I suspect the Board of Selectmen will do that on a future project. J.P. Carter is prepared to give us an estimate to run wires from Dust Pocket Park down to at least the 2 trees in front of our parking lot.
Oh, okay.
So the same thing could take place, and maybe some could go at that end, but like I said, I don't know if, I know they tried planting trees across the street, you can still see the cutouts.
Mm-hmm,
It would be nice
all
to
right.
at least try to get some over there. It's like,
More lighting
we
the
seem to
better.
disenfranchise that side of the street with their beautification.
No, we were,
and
yeah, we
trees.
weren't gonna abandon the other side.
Yeah.
We were gonna get to that eventually, yeah, we just didn't want
Before
Do
the
it all at
sidewalk
once.
up and about, there's an opportunity.
to. Yeah.
Right, so,
yeah.
and that's the next part,
Yeah,
at
we
least it
didn't wanna
was.
abandon,
Okay.
you're right.
But, right, for right now, these 10 are gonna go along the
Yeah.
section of sidewalk, okay.
Right.
Are they going to extend in front of town hall at all?
Once you're starting there and going that way.
Corner School Street.
You wanna see Catherine?
I did, I looked at the,
Yeah.
Slideshow
So-
she's on?
yeah,
This is like,
Yeah, so what do you, which picture do
they
you?
were
When did you
by,
send that? Today?
you by Polly's.
right.
Is the first one by Polly's then? Or is that one
It's
closer?
A little closer.
So you got one, then Polly's, down by the old barber shop, in front of the
Yeah.
church, it looks like, in front of B.
Didn't I,
It's hard
didn't
to
I
look
see
at
one
that.
that was near the curb, and then there was one very close to it on the opposite side of the sidewalk? I think by the Congregational
I don't know, I'm
Church.
gonna go down there and reassess where the,
But I guess that's the small potatoes of this project, huh?
because
The other thing you may wanna do is talk to Kevin to see where he wants the base set, how close to that curb. It's
yeah,
like my pickup, if you're up that close, then my back end is out in the travel lane. So you may wanna just, on the layout, move him in about a foot.
okay, so Kevin and.
But he's also gotta keep in mind his snow removal.
Well, not only keep in mind snow removal, but you have to keep in mind wheelchairs that go down in the pathway of
But
the, of
if
the
you look
width
at the
of
box out for the
sidewalk.
trees, we've got enough room to set it back. You know, that's right up next to the granite curb, we could set it back a little bit further,
Right.
which would allow the cars to park like they do.
Right, that's a good point, yeah.
Since
I'll just-
DOT is working against us with their striping, rather than shift it to balance the road out.
Yeah,
They always did that.
They did. If you look at it, you can tell they did.
which striping?
Right here, once you go
Central
around the bend.
anniversary, it's
Yeah.
not,
That's why this side is tight.
Yeah.
not conducive to our
They don't like our parking.
parking spaces.
Well, they met with us a year and a half ago, and they said everything's fine. So, we asked for suggestions then.
Oh, they didn't tell you to take out certain parking spots near all the crosswalks? Is it 15 or 20 feet they want?
20 feet.
20 feet from a crosswalk, so like
Yeah.
every crosswalk down there, you're gonna lose like 2 spots on each side. Yeah, that's what the issue is.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, nice project.
Okay, the next thing, a little earlier, but that's okay, 5 minutes early than here. Jim Verrica, parking on Morrison Avenue. I'm going to recluse myself on this, so I think you guys can come up and sit down there.
Make sure you're talking to them
There's
on the mic.
microphones here, so
State your name.
Good evening. Hi there. James Beverka.
And Susan Brown.
I'm a little hard of hearing these hearing aids are so bad. They're getting old, I mean.
So please tell us why you're here.
Oh.
Give us a history of what's happening.
Well, we've been parking in our parking space in front of our home for 20 years, and recently, my neighbors, he's, for a long time, he's had it out for me to try to make me move and make things unpleasant, so we move, and of course, we're not going anywhere, you know, and like over the summer, he would put out large blocks of concrete and stuff to hinder my way to drive out, and I said, I'll just leave it alone, back up a little bit, and move out, right? So I went skiing a little while ago, and I came back, and my neighbor had witnessed him lugging giant boulders of ice and frozen snow and making a pile out to about 3, almost 4 feet onto the road to hinder my way to drive out. And, well, I said, I'm going to put my foot down. And I called the police. I said, could you ask him to move that? And they warned him. And then all of a sudden, everybody's telling me, well, we can't park there anymore. About the ordinance. Well, the house, when the house was bought, it was grass and dirt in the front, and that's where people parked. And then when they repaved the road and all, the town decided to pave right up next to the house for drainage purposes. So looks like the road. You know, they gave the landlady a free driveway, so to speak. So. We think it's wrong and unjust, and
What number of Morrison Ave?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
24.
24?
Before they repaved the road, could you park in
Oh, I
front of the
wasn't-
house
I
without
wasn't-
being in the road?
There was 7 feet in front of the house.
Before they
Yeah,
paved?
but
That
it
was
It
grass.
was dirt and grass.
That's before we moved.
And they paved, when they fixed the road, 'cause that road always needs fixing. I mean, there's bubbling.
I know the history.
Yeah.
Town mains, right, have filled our basement once with water. So we just park where we always park, but Dave's always had it out for us to move. He hates me, because I'm a liberal. I write in the newspaper.
I love your letters.
What?
I said I love your letters.
Thank you.
Sniffy the clown.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he thought I was attacking the newspaper. He was just not smart enough to realize that I was just rebutting other letter writers, that's all. And he's not a decent human being. So he just piled that stuff out, and now suddenly it's my fault, our fault. All his problems are our fault. He had now he's got a snow blower. We, for 20 years, get sucked in every snowstorm. We got 2 feet up next to our cars. I got a 4-wheel drive, I can drive right out of it. Now, you think I'm going to leave that snow there? No. I grab a shovel, I'm 70 years old, I grab a shovel and I rip it off between the house. And because it's good exercise. You know, you stop doing that stuff, you're in trouble. Well, he was complaining about, oh, it makes it hard for me. You got a snow blower. I mean, my God. I mean,
So,
come on. He just wants me to move. We're not moving, of course, you know, and it just kind of makes us want to stay a little longer because he's just such a, you know, nasty person.
so what once was dirt and grass was paved over?
It was paved over by the town
Okay.
for water drainage because the house, the hill, the road is on a gradual hill.
Mhm.
And the water just, when there's a heavy rainstorm, it just comes down like it's the Grand Coulee Dam broke, right? And so they have, you know, you can see in the pictures, you got my pictures, right?
I didn't see the pictures.
I mean, I would have brought the pictures.
You can see just the little corner of the garage next to it, which doesn't belong to that property.
Okay, I see it on Google Maps. I have it here on Google
I
Maps.
brought all kinds of pictures. I mean, I gave all kinds of pictures
It
to
really is just on the edge of the road.
Jeannie.
They fit off the road.
Yeah, I mean.
And
we're-
then,
our
and so,
cars,
so
we're
my
grass
understanding
used to be.
is now that the police say you can't park off the road. I see Google Maps and right here on,
Right, okay.
so,
I
It's-
understand that, but why suddenly after 20 years is just an issue, and.
So it's off the road, that's my question,
I'm
it's off the road.
Oh, yeah, okay. There's a line that goes down where the town paved, and then, you can see it's like a little line, and then there's more paved that goes into
This drainage
right
swale.
up to our court.
It's a drainage swale, so it's not part of your
Yeah, yeah.
travel way, it's for drainage.
Now, that line
Mhm.
probably isn't exactly where the original property line was. Because I measured it, and she said it was 7 feet, and it's 7 feet in the front, and it's about 6 1/4 in the back. But she said it was 7 feet. And if you stand back down the street and you look up the street, you can see the line coming all the way up the line where it would be, and then, of course, it disappears, it's just concrete all the way, asphalt all the way. And so, this strategy of these people, I don't know who's buddies with who, but what this does is it diminishes the property of the landlord, makes it unsellable and unrentable. So it's just, we might as well just end it now. Let us part, or the landladies, hire a lawyer, she said. And off the
There's a
district
lawyer.
court we go.
Okay, can you hold on one second?
Okay.
Okay. Chief, do you want to weigh in on this, please? Come up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, the opposite too.
How you doing?
Patrols, he may have even better. You think the chief's been on Morrison Ave? When's the last time you were on Morrison?
2 days. Actually, just went 2 days ago.
Oh, you go, you took him? I was gonna say, you've been on him more frequent.
There's the other one.
There's the other one.
That's funny.
I told you.
I never said you were not. Have we ever written you a ticket on there, on that road? I've written a lot of tickets in town, and I don't think anybody's been yours, so.
Okay,
Not my street,
all right.
One by mistake.
Can we keep this down to a minimum, please? And
Sure.
I want to get to the bottom of the
Sure.
situation.
So obviously, Officer Gilman, for me, works with the highway department to make sure the roads are clear during the winter for snow plowing. The winter parking ban, the municipal lots. I have one point of contact with highway, and that's Officer Gilman. So he works close with the highway foreman to make sure there's enough room for the plows on all the streets downtown, not just yours. And so if they run into an issue, if a plow driver says,
Suddenly, after 38 years?
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But if I could,
I'm not stupid.
no, I'm not. I don't
Right, let
I don't
him
know
finish,
anyone
please.
over there. So it was brought to our attention that the plow had to swing around the vehicle over there, and so Officer Gilman said that he would go over there and verbally warn people that they couldn't park on the roadway if it impeded the plows during the winter parking ban period of the year.
But we're in our parking spot.
So I guess, if you have a solution that gives room for the plows to get by, then...
Plow can go by like it's gone by for the last 50 years, as far as
Okay.
we're concerned. No, we're not giving in, sir.
Go ahead, Peter.
I think we've gone from international big plow truck to a 3/4 ton, because I think you're on the same route as me on the other side of 93. It's just a pickup that does your road now, isn't it?
Hmm?
Do you have a pickup that does the plowing, or one of the big trucks?
It's a big truck.
Oh, you do have a big,
A
oh.
big wing on it, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not that big because I measured the road, it's 30 feet across, and I've got 7 of it, he's got 23 feet, it's plenty of room for the plow. He's just in Dave's pocket.
No, I can assure you.
Well, it wasn't a problem until now.
Well, we have a relatively new public works director, he's only been.
Well,
with us
I
a little
think
over a
that
year.
the ordinance
1 year?
could be shown that it causes hardship and it also contributes to a person not be able to enjoy their ownership of the property. So that's how it's going to come out in court.
So my understanding is that it was sticking out a little too far for the plow one night, and then the policeman came and spoke to you and said you can't have it out into the
That's
road.
not what happened. No.
Okay, so that's not what happened,
No,
chief.
no. I've got a phenomenal memory, and that's not what happened. You want me to go right through
No.
this whole story?
No,
Okay.
I don't want you to go through the
Oh,
whole
why
story,
not?
but because what the chief is saying
He
and
said
what,
yes.
and what Officer Gilman is saying is that you can park there, but you can't impede the road. So you can still park there, but you can't come out into the road. So I'm not sure what the,
If I'm parking right next to my porch, I am legally on the landlord's property, no matter where the line is after they did all that repaving and putting in the ditch so that the water didn't go all over everywhere into people's basements and things like that.
I have a similar situation where I live on a dead-end street on Maple Court, and my tenant has to park in the front. And occasionally, when he comes home and doesn't pay attention because he's got to snug into the house a little bit in the winter, he sticks out. And it's his fault if he sticks out because he's got to snug in a little bit. Now,
Oh, I can snug in
okay,
every night.
So, this is
That's why I gave you the picture of us snugged in.
this is one of our road goes. This is the one that has Morrison Ave.
What?
So, oh, I'm sorry.
this is one of our road
This is
books.
This is a road book I went and grabbed. So this is a document from 1924, and I won't read the whole thing, and we therefore lay out a highway as requested in said petition, and over the route described therein, said highway to be 40 feet wide. This is another document.
Okay.
I'm looking for, this is 1921. And it also, the road described herein said highway to be 40 feet wide. And this is Morrison Avenue. It also
It says my road is 40 feet wide?
Well, that's, so the rest of the story is, I don't know if it was deeded or if it was a right-of-way.
Oh,
That's the rest of the story, but 40 feet wide is what Morrison Avenue is. That's what the selectmen laid out.
Okay.
So
Well, then some
that
grass
is
is
the-
grown in from some places.
So the town right-of-way, if you will, through there is 40 feet wide. And you said the road's 33?
23.
I measured the road. It was like, yeah, almost 30, within inches of 30 feet from the edge of
Okay.
John's property across the street and our porch. So this is a situation that needs some variance. I mean, we're perfectly willing to snug in next to it, you know, and I'll even take the tape measure out every night and make sure it's within 7 feet so nobody gets upset.
And you have two cars, you probably
And we have two cars. She's got a small car and I've got a small SUV, and they fit perfectly right in the area, parked in front of each other.
So the one person that's missing in this is the Public Works Director.
One what?
The Public Works Director is missing in this because he's the one that has to keep the road clear. And we don't have the benefit of his input on
Oh, I've heard him.
if we can make some kind of exception, what needs to be done, we don't have any of that information. Well, I mean, I personally can't make a decision on what to do here without that input.
Well, I want to know what changed in 38 years, all of a sudden, they've been parking in one spot for
I would like
38
to
years,
add-
and all of a sudden now we can't park.
The
That's like my
38
house.
years that I mentioned is because a woman down the street, who used to be the school nurse, Stephanie Penny, has lived there for 38 years, and she says there's never been a problem. The problem is David Fontaine.
I just want to add
I don't know
that
that person.
we got ticketed at the beginning of the snow season, And I took the tickets down right away to the police station to say, we've been parking here for 20 years and we shouldn't have to pay this fine. I talked to Morrison, and he took the tickets and he said, no, my officers are doing exactly what they are instructed to do and ticket you for being parked on the road. So I said, well, we've been parking there. We have no driveway. We have no other place to park but right in front of the house. That's where we've been parking for 20 years. And he said, okay, I'll take care of this. And now, I don't know what happened from then till now, where now there's an issue. But he said, he apologized and said, I'll take care of this. You don't know the fine, and
But
you can
then
still
I
park there.
complained about David, and it was a game changer.
So as a possible solution, and I'd wait to hear from Public Works, is would you be amenable if there was a plowable snow event occurring overnight? Could you find alternative parking, but if it's a regular night, you park there?
That would be fine.
Wait a minute, we can't commit to something that we didn't have to commit to for the last 50 years. But I will tell you that if we feel like it, we've been parking we have friends on that street. We've got friends in the street. We're really good friends with people. And I park my car and one friend, she parks her car. The other friends at night, just while we're under this cloud. And if a major event comes along, here there's a big old nor'easter, I'm not committing. Because my landlady would not want us to commit to something that can make a precedent. It would be a precedent, and then it would harm her enjoyment of her property. Because there's only one solution here. The town just has to accept that the car is going to be right on the edge of the property, and the plow has to move a whole foot over.
So here's an interesting question. If the plow hits the car because it's technically in the right-of-way, town will not be liable.
Right.
So that's.
But I'll measure it.
But if it's a 40-foot right-of-way, and there's only 30 feet of pavement, there's still a missing 10 feet.
But what do they do in the village? That is a common problem. Chestnut, Prospect, High, Cedar, Maple Court, it's a common problem over there.
But they all have driveways.
No, they don't.
There's one property whose driveway is across the street from Chestnut.
Well, I can tell you go to Maple Court right now.
But nevertheless, we're not there, we're in Morrison.
It's a common problem.
So, let's
you got a town
let's deal with
with,
Morrison and find out the rest
That
of the
doesn't
story.
match the
I, for
streets.
one,
Yeah, we'll research it.
I, for one, need the Public Works Director to.
What's that?
I need the Public Works Director input to see
Okay.
how we can,
And I need to go out and actually look at it and talk with the Public Works Director.
that house is very close.
Right, like I said.
That's the house we dealt with 10 or so years ago, or maybe, it was more than that, maybe 15 years ago. Wasn't there water running from the road into the house?
Which is why they paved it.
We put a little
Yeah,
curve.
yeah, we get enough water
Well,
in there
no,
as
we
it is. We have a
paved,
drain
it
in
was
the basement.
paved previously, it was the new paving that caused the water to go into the house. And then I believe the Public Works Director at the time did some kind of swale or berm to try to
Berm.
redirect water. Okay, it's the same house.
I mean,
It's a cute little house.
we love to help, I mean, the last thing in the world I want to do is give the finger to Public Works. Or the police.
No, we need to,
But I can't make a commitment. That's my landlady's job. It's her property. And she's like, I hate to hire a lawyer, but I have to. Because it's her property. It diminishes the value of the property. And it makes it so, oh, sorry, we're not going to rent there. We got no place to park. We're not going to buy there. We're not going to buy it because we got no place to park. So it just sits there. It's a losing proposition in court. It's a waste of money to go to court.
do you want to come back when we have the Public Works Director in?
Sure,
Okay. Do you think
But
you'll
I'm
live?
gonna tell them the same
She's in
thing.
Florida, she can't.
It's not our golf court anymore. It's the landlady's golf court. We're just we're in between now. It's
It's
all.
your vehicles though.
She's ready to go to court, and we're just trying to settle it now.
Selectman
Just
Paul
settle it
brought
now,
up an
get it over with.
interesting question, who's
Get this
liable is the
money
We
client?
haven't had any
Anything
accidents in
behind
20 years, so why would we have an accident now? They come very slowly.
Employees come and go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we do that then? Have you-
So we'll park at our friend's house until we meet with you next,
Thank you, yeah,
okay?
thank you.
I mean,
It's not a worry.
we're not trying to be difficult. I haven't talked to David in 6 years, but, you know, he's just he wants to provoke me, because I'll get in trouble if I say anything to him.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll be back in touch to
All right.
when you come back in next. Gail will give you a call.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank
It's
you.
nice
That's all.
to meet you in person.
Yeah, I got another one on Bruce Jenkins going in tomorrow.
Daily Sun's address?
He's a numbskull.
Good night.
Thanks all.
Good night.
Bye now.
Next,
So,
next thing we have on the,
can I just, well, we're asking the officer.
make sure you get the mic.
What, if anything in particular prompted this particular
So-
house, this particular vehicle to pack right? There's gotta, it has to have been other vehicles.
Yes.
In this area.
You know, the midnight and
I do.
beyond, and there is a problem. Pat says there's a problem on Chestnut. There is an issue with cars, and we're trying to resolve that with the whole sidewalk thing, but officers are getting out there, I can tell you 100%. And we're riding vehicles that are on Chestnut, that are on all these other vehicles, and anybody that is out there during the snowstorms and wherever they used to call. We have been super lenient with that road and with his vehicles, which is fine. This is why, okay?
Okay.
So that's why when the officer had written the ticket that she had referenced, it's always been under that guideline. We understand his house is close, we understand he's at much road. But the problem is those two he has a restraining order again. There's more than, it's bigger than it needs to be.
That's what it
Okay,
sounded
so that's the
like.
underlying issue, so we won't get into it because it's all, but that's the issue. Those two go back, they had called and there was a pinch point. When I showed up on scene with Tyler, a new officer, and actually Sergeant Buffington showed up, it was more than the plow could get through. It was, they were having a tit for tat with snow. But as you can see, Mr. Fontaine did make a valid point when he drove down the road. His vehicle, that gentleman's vehicle, it was in front of his house, but it was bumped out. But you could see where the plow truck, like several times over several storms, has gone around. Because you remember, this is not a pickup truck. This is the big truck with the wing. You cannot see that wing when it's like this and you're driving it now as a vehicle, so you give another 5-6 feet. Now you're causing this, which then pinches that road down. It's not it's a one-way road, as in when you get to Route 3 across from Chili's, you can only go one way out. You can't come in that way, but there's vehicles going both ways. Now you cause that pinch point, you have an issue.
Okay.
What was happening, it was a pinch point, and what Fontaine said is if his vehicle was not there, they would be able to scrape the snow that was piling up in front of his house and over time was building up. And the town would be able to take that with a plow truck. So the chief and I did go over there before we came here 2 days ago, and his vehicle is pushed all the way over. I don't know if that's like that all the time, but his tires were still on the road, okay? There is a swale that goes down, they have paved, the swale that goes underneath his vehicle, but his tires are on the paved portion, which in any other town, in any other street, on any other, in the town of Tilton would be violation and would be written, would be
How can
cited
you
for.
tell it's a paved portion if it's all paved?
Well, it's all paved, you can tell exactly where the swale goes and where they built the new swale, so there's actually a line, and then the new swale's built right where the edge of pavement, and you can follow it from Dave's, and you can follow it back to where the swale ends on both ends, and you can see, and then the swale bumps out and comes up. So you can see where it is, and I can go there and measure a couple points of the road for the selectmen to show you where we're talking about, with the swale, without. I do understand, and we've already resolved this, Peter. We came up with the same solution. This was talked about a couple weeks ago. I went there, and we asked nicely if you could just, on a snowstorm, everything's done. It was good until they had gotten together, and his wife, and they decided we're not going to appease Dave, and we're not going to do it. So it's more of a tit for tat thing. Instead of saying, we need to get out of the road, liability, if my car gets hit, it's a little more than that. So we're kind of like trying to balance and do the best we possibly can on our end. We understand we're not going to write them on a normal night, but on the snow, we need to make sure it's not a traffic hazard.
Gonna have to call you Solomon.
It looked like if he put his passenger door right up against the porch there, that all four tires would be off that road portion of the pavement. We both kind of agreed to that. I don't know where the town land actually ends, but it looks like if he gets up against that porch, he's technically off.
And then you gotta remember though, even if he's pushed over, let's say it's another, the tire was half and half on the road, let's say he does push over as close as he can to the porch, you have to remember, it's a big dump truck with a big
It's still gonna
plow,
make that
and it's still gonna
light
look
burn.
real tight and
Right.
it's
One
gonna
of the
plow.
smallest
I don't know why he
roads,
doesn't use.
I know.
big wing.
So maybe that's something that we.
Well,
that could
Because
be.
my size, the 3/4 ton, they
Okay.
could run Morrison as they're heading over,
Mine's
they no
the
problem.
3/4 ton.
Mhm.
Well, I think that's why we
Two
need
of them.
public works.
Exactly, I think there's a solution. to
I
that
mean,
aspect
we
too.
usually defer to them, highway,
No, yeah.
what they can use and what.
Yeah.
Does anybody wanna actually see how wide the road is,
Yep.
Yeah,
the measurement?
we can do that, it's easy. Couple different points of other people's houses, up past the swale, in front of the swale, even right to his porch, the edge of pavement to show that, that's easy.
John, you know that road, do you think that paved way
Yeah,
is 40 feet wide?
No.
No, it's not 40 feet wide.
Is there shoulders enough to make 40 feet?
Probably going
If you
into
took some on my
lawns.
side, yeah,
Yeah.
you could probably go, up to the bushes. I think my side has more.
Yeah.
The-
But once you get past John's, you cannot take any more, because there's a building right up
There's a
above
couple
you.
other houses up that are
That are
close
right
to
on
it,
the
but
edge.
They filled in next to the house
Right.
and the driveway.
I
Right,
would definitely be surprised if you get 40 where his house is.
Right. I'd be very surprised that you got 40.
The biggest problem is when they plow it to the edge, the snow has to go somewhere.
Mhm.
That's where
The
the
wind
cars
Yep.
are. So they can't plow to the road, now they have to plow
Right,
3 or 4 feet out. So that it makes that big pile there, and then it gets shoveled just as one spot, leaving the rest of the road coming, that approaches to it as a,
Right, because you have
Block.
that wind roll from the.
the wind, yeah, when it-
Getting it pitched
or
in,
or
that's what
if they were pushing it too close,
Yeah.
it came in the doors on his cars.
And he also knew that was on a mid-end, that's why he wrote that he was doing what he was supposed to do, that's why
Mm-hmm.
Sergeant Morrison did that. Because the guy, that was his first midnight, he went out there and was like, all right, and then sees that, and was like, this is what I'm supposed to do, everywhere else. So it's
Okay.
always been an exception, that's fine, we just wanna kind of resolve this. There's also a tit for tat thing going on, so that's what's for all, If that was out of the equation and they both got it agreed, it probably would be easy to resolve, but it's not, and we deal with it all the time. Not without it,
Okay,
it's police work.
okay, next.
thank you so much for coming in.
Now, for the next story. What do you got going on? You're all set.
Who's gonna measure the road?
You want to mention the road? I don't, I won't.
What?
I won't.
You won't.
I can measure the road.
I think it's better.
I can handle
Take some
Come
pictures.
on,
from the
yeah.
end to the strong.
Not even the dumpster, I'm not
Take pictures, I'll measure the road.
be involved.
Couple different spots, swale, all that, and all the way to his porch, give you at least.
Awesome, thank you.
Sound good?
That was very good. Good.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thanks, Abe.
All right.
Oh.
Everybody have a good night. See you soon. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night.
Yeah.
It was nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Hi, Gail. Oh, Gail, before you go, are we talking loud enough for you,
Well,
for the minutes?
Catherine can pull hers a little closer.
I coughed though. I don't want to cough.
Pat, you're in charge of the camera.
Okay, got it.
Here, Catherine, you can cough on mine, I got the phone thing.
I have a charge, I'm important.
Where are we at? Let's see. Department update.
Department updates. All right, I'll touch on a few things. So, in the last week, they've had 483 calls for service, 7 arrests. We picked up 2 more today, and I'll talk about those in a minute. So far, they're at about 900 calls for service. All these numbers I looked at last year are all pretty much average. It's kind of an average start to the year. One thing that we started to do in 2019, and it's definitely carried into the beginning of 2020, is just really take a hard approach to any illegal drug sales or felony drug activity in town. And last year, they impounded and did search warrants on probably an average of 2 to 3 vehicles per week in the Sally Port. There's one in there today, and that's all drug interdiction by patrol, stopping cars that are coming out of locations either selling drugs or dropping off drugs. They're working close with detectives so that they're feeding intel into each other. And when I walk through the Sally Port each week, there's a couple of cars in there with evidence tape on them. When they come in, they have 7 days to execute the search warrant on them, and almost inevitably, it's rare that they don't pull drugs out of the vehicle when they brought them in. So, and there's one in there today that's related to one of our bigger U.S. attorney cases from a few weeks ago, a month ago. So there's another vehicle coming in on that same case. And then today, it started yesterday, but we kind of wrapped up today. We executed some search warrants on locations in Tilton and Northfield that connect to each other for illegal drug sales. One of the suspects was out of Haverhill, known to carry guns. We got him into custody about somewhere around 1 o'clock
Haverhill,
today.
Mass.
Haverhill, Mass. And he's been running drugs to Tilton and Northfield for a while, and we've been surveilling him. So we got him into custody today. We did a search warrant on that house. And then the second house we did a search warrant on. One of the guys working for him was on Chestnut Street, so we executed a search warrant on Chestnut Street today. Both subjects were arrested. They're actually still searching the houses as we speak. So it was a busy day. As a boss, you just want everyone to go home safe at the end of a day like today. And so after everyone was in custody and the houses were locked down, I said, I could catch my breath and say, all right, everyone's safe, and they did a great job. The guys didn't get to eat today. They just spent all day working on this stuff. And you don't know what you're going to encounter when you do these kind of things. So just kudos to them. One of the houses, or 2 of them, have been on our radar screen for over a year. So yeah, so these aren't cases that we just picked up a month ago. One of them, I think, has been off and on our radar screen for several years, actually. So if you saw a lot of police activity, that was today, and we actually apprehended one of the suspects across the street at the Apple about an hour ago. So it was a good day, a busy day, and by the end of the day, we're going to be tired, I'm sure. And training's going well. Officer Gilman and Order, the FTOs, and they're doing a great job with that new hire. Everything's going super with him. No issues really. One of the cars this week had its routine oil change, but it was just, I'm going to knock on wood there, nothing going on with the fleet this week. And then lastly, I came into the board last week just to talk about one of my dispatchers, communication specialist, to be able to give her the title so she can do some of the things that the state requires for me. And so I went back, I spoke with her to make sure she's okay with it, spoke with Nate Buffington, and that's Beth Morrison. So this week I've actually put it on a PAR and brought it to the board, John. So she's just asking, and Nate is just asking if I could retitle her to be a communication supervisor. She's already doing the job anyway, just because she's got that drive and initiative and experience behind her to do it. She's making sure we're ready for the state audits, making sure that we're meeting all the CDIS requirements. She's making sure that the other dispatchers are getting their job done.
So just a consensus and everybody's...
I'll make a motion to that effect that we will retitle Beth Morse, no money,
She didn't ask for anything.
just a title,
It states that
to
on the
communication
PAR.
specialist, dispatch supervisor.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
thing I want to bring up while the chief is here.
Okay.
Last week, we talked about SWAT. And the amount of time. There's a policy, if you will, in 2015 where we agreed that their 8 hours would be on company or town time.
Right.
And then anything above and beyond that would be on their time. We have one officer that would like to be, is actively pursuing SWAT. And that's, the SWAT training now has changed for the record, for the cameras, 8 to 16 hours. And so we talked about that in comp time, and we said, really can't be comp time, it really needs to be on their own time. So now we see in the payroll, a timesheet, it's not comp time, but now we're shift adjusting. Well, shift adjusting means that it's really on the town's time. And here's my personal feeling about that. SWAT is a phenomenal education to the officer, but it's a resume builder for them. It is, they can go anywhere, do anything in any part of New Hampshire after they complete all of the training for that. And that would be on our dime. And it really only suits the town of Tilton if there was a catastrophic event or an event here in Tilton where we needed it. And if we didn't have an officer in the SWAT, we would still be available to have Belknap SWAT come in. It wouldn't change anything. They ask to be in SWAT. We don't ask them to take on that responsibility as a asset to us. If you do 16 hours of town time, and then that's 192 hours, that's minimum a year, so 16 hours a month, and then you have 3 or 4 officers on a Friday to do lead, and which I'm a huge proponent of. And then you have the cadets, you have an officer doing that, and so if you add up what the extra activities that we do, we say, well, that's 3/4 of the 9th officer that we fought and said, oh no, that 9th officer will help us with the parking issues, will help us with boots on the ground here, downtown, creating the issues. Wednesday, I had the opportunity of being downtown at 9:30. There were 21 vehicles downtown, 21 vehicles downtown that belonged to business owners. And at 12:30, when I left downtown, there were 21 business owners still downtown. And it didn't matter. I have an elderly woman calling me every single night saying, why am I paying for parking stickers when there are dozens of people that I can look out my window right now and say, there are no parking stickers on their cars, absolutely none. And that we've only given out 18 this year, and we have somewhere in the 40 range last year that use overnight. And so what I'm getting at is that we have to do something. I'm not a proponent of allowing town monies being spent on, it's a give and take. I'll go halfway, 8 hours town time, SWAT, but let that officer who wants to do that meet us halfway, and if that person really wants to be committed to that, let him show that, or him or her, show that commitment, and let him spend paid time off, or whatever time he has available, comp time, whatever, and, you know, say, yeah, I'm really committed to this, I really want this to work, and let him chuck in that extra 8 hours, and not have to do shift adjust. If you shift adjust, it affects everybody else on the team, and the roster is the one that suffers. Boots on the ground is what suffers from that. That's only my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the board feels on that, but that's my opinion. I'll shut up now.
Well, the board made that decision that town monies would pay for 8 hours of SWAT, or, so you, no, Central New Hampshire Operations Unit.
Belknap's.
I know, but
Yeah.
when
Essentially,
we had
it
the
was-
discussion, that's
Right.
what it was about, so
Yeah.
either or. And we agreed as a board of selectmen that we would pay for 8 hours and no more than 8 hours.
Right.
So it's not even what my opinion is, the board of selectmen said, 8 hours. That's what the town's monies are gonna pay for, no more, no less. So it's upsetting to me to find out that that's not what is happening, and that's not what's been going on. Because we have not changed that decision. That decision stands, was voted on by this board. And that's what should be taking place. And I think everybody knows, I agree with Pat on the parking. It's shameful. We have an ordinance, and we have all these officers, but we don't have time to enforce it. And the reason we want it enforced is to keep our downtown active, so that patrons would have places to park. After all, if they drive through Main Street, they want to stop and have something to eat at one of our restaurants, and there's no place to park, they're gonna keep on going.
And that's what's happening. We can hear it from the business owners. We heard it from the hardware store. It's almost put him out of business. We tried to find a resolve and put up 30-minute parking. It's helped a great deal. But who's enforcing 30-minute parking? No one. Absolutely no one, except the store owner. I don't know, where we're gonna go with this, but, I mean, we need to have offices that, we paid for. I mean, I fought real hard for that 9th officer, because we need to have that person on the roster to get downtown, to get these things done. We have an issue with cars being parked at weddings and so on and so forth, and there's apparently an issue from the Parks Commission that they have these things that are, and nobody's going over to assist them. That there are a lot of things that it feels like the board's not being assisted on, and we can write directives all day long, but if those directives aren't being held up on your end, it's just a piece of paper, and that's all it is. But, I mean, I fought real hard for that officer, and it seems like that officer is giving you the time to do here, and here, and that's not what that officer is for.
I mean, he's still in his field training. Today, I know everyone was tied up with these two surgeons.
Oh, I understand.
No one's speaking, and I'm not making excuses.
I
I'm
get
just
it.
saying today was one of those days, they.
Kudos to one of these days. I love these
And I
days.
think, I talked to the supervisors, I said when he finishes his field training, we have to start to tackle some of the stuff that we did talk about when we bring him on board. The parks. I know like last summer, they increased director patrols on the island, the parks, that sort of stuff. We had officers downtown when school got out, we picked up that extra stuff. They know I want that stuff back. As soon as he finishes field training, they know that's a priority for us. Right now,
When does field training stop?
he's got about a month left, so. They have been They have been meeting with highway and municipal lots. They're putting out warnings for people to update their parking stickers. You know, they've revamped that whole parking sticker program to put the new stickers out there. They did meet with that senior, they did about, they went through, they checked every plate out there to make sure that they had stickers or were getting them. So they're kind of focused on that in the winter parking ban right now.
The business owners know, they've told me, it's fine in the winter, we can get away with it, because they're not gonna patrol until the spring or summer.
I mean, our ordinance is a year-round ordinance.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line. It's a year-round ordinance. What are the supervisors doing? Besides hanging around the PD waiting for something to happen, they could be out. I mean, my understanding was they got the title, but they still do police work.
Oh, and absolutely, they approve reports, but besides that, they should be out there.
You know that we have people that won't use the trail because they don't feel it's safe.
Not anymore, they won't have their children go down it.
And these are adults that won't use it as well.
Right.
Yard sales, and people camping out there that shouldn't be
I know
out there.
that the bicycle patrols made an arrest down there last summer. They got a guy on a warrant, they had a drug arrest. Dave went down there on the bicycles. Liz goes down there quite a bit.
They
This
missed
time
a
of year.
whole group of people that had been camped down there for 2 months last fall.
I mean, those.
I know because I went down to see the litter they left.
Yeah. The camping piece, you know, unless they want, we can't move them down there. I mean, Concord went through that. We can't ask them to leave.
If they're camping on the trail?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
They weren't on the
Concord.
trail, they were on private property.
If the owner of the property doesn't care, you can't do anything.
But
They
the
have that
owner-
problem in
My
Franklin.
understanding was the owner of the property was notified.
Wow.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
different.
I don't even know if they're aware of it now.
I know they went through this with the encampments along the river in Concord.
Yeah.
The ACU.
This is on the other side, this was on private property.
Yeah, I mean, if they call us, we'll definitely remove them. They love patrolling down there on the bicycles. This time of year, I have to be honest, they don't get down there on the
This
bicycles.
was in the fall before snow.
Yeah.
This was September, October, and part of November.
Is there any way could the police department go and start meeting with some of the business owners and tell them about the problem that they're causing themselves?
I know,
You know,
there's a
they
meeting in the works.
really know.
Officer Gilman and I are in the process of setting that up.
Because I think if they could just understand that they're causing their businesses to fail.
They deliberately park in front of other businesses
I know.
and cause problems.
I had a business downtown.
It's,
That's what I heard too.
it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We actually ran
because
it-
somebody parked in front of theirs, they're gonna park in
they're gonna
front
park in
of
front
somebody
of
else's.
theirs, exactly.
We actually had the same problem in Plymouth. The exact same problem.
Like, Yeah, just comment.
Just curious, how much is a parking ticket? What do we charge for a parking ticket?
$15 a year.
Well,
20?
some are
Oh, did you
25,
go up?
Some are
Yeah.
A
25.
ticket
Oh, a
or a
ticket.
permit?
Parking tickets.
The ticket, if
Oh.
you get a ticket down there.
25.
$20
Oh, I thought you meant the
ticket.
permit.
And where does that money go when the ticket's written?
They have to pay it through the town.
So does it go into the general account or something?
Goes into the general fund.
General fund.
General fund for the account, for the town?
There's revenue, yeah.
Because I'm wondering what you could fund, if you wrote a lot of parking tickets downtown, what that could fund, either the SWAT or something else.
Streetlights.
8 hours of SWAT.
They're not there to write the tickets.
Streetlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's recap so we have SWAT, I don't know, I didn't hear from the board how they felt about that, and the parking, so you want to give the chief a direction, because we didn't give him one last week, we talked about it, and there was no way to, we said no comp time, but then it turned out to be a shift adjustment, so.
But as I said, we made a decision years ago that other 8 hours would not be on the town's dime. And you can't shift adjust without it being on the town's dime. It has to be some PTO.
Right. So that actually occurred before I was in Thursday, and so it was 3 hours before I came in Thursday. I met with the captain next morning. I told him no shift adjusting, no comp time, no nothing until further.
Okay.
And so that's temporarily on hold.
Makes sense.
And the way it was left last week is you said if you have a plan, come back to us.
Right.
And so I told the cap to sit down with him, go over the schedule, develop a plan with him, and then bring it to me, and I'll bring it back to the board. So right now, until further, it's just
Okay.
8 hours.
Got it. All right.
It's the way it's good, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
the
I-
way it has to be until this board makes the decision otherwise.
And I told them that, so that, and they're good with that.
Okay, so he's clear with that. You're,
And
okay.
and about, the parking stuff, like I said, I just met with Dave about this the other day. He told me he was setting up a meeting with Jeannie to address this with all the businesses.
I'm happy with
They
that.
have a plan in place. He wants to bring everyone into compliance. Yesterday, he was sitting in there working on a warning at his desk yesterday that is gonna explain the ordinance, and he's gonna have the new officer put it on every windshield. And so, he seems like he's really trying to fix this problem.
I think we're past warnings, though. I really do.
We had
Because
one business
this has
owner,
been 10 years.
well, we had
And
one
I-
business owner get 5 tickets in 1 week. It was somewhere about $200, was it?
It's, yeah.
Yeah, and so.
This is going to help fund our, like you're saying, streetlights and making the downtown better, and I just hate
Take that
that.
in your head.
And nothing, at $25 is a pretty good warning, like, it's this.
Well, I think it goes up. It's $25 the first one. Second offense, I think it goes up do you have it right there?
Well, I know that,
I think it's $25 and, I can look it up.
they wrote 24 down there so far.
This
And they've
year?
to- This year downtown, and they've towed several, I know that
Yeah.
for sure. So they're, and then 202 citations, so 24 parking tickets.
Don't feel bad about
No,
tipping. Even if you
no.
catch me down there parking over the time, put a ticket on my car, because I'll be supporting the town tax reduction.
Yeah,
We'll get in a positive way.
I told them to ramp it up, and they are,
So
so.
you just can't let people go. The other thing is there any way, I don't know how much of downtown our cameras cover, but if somebody's at dispatch and they see a car there, write down the time. How long is the parking? 2 hours, right?
Yes.
2 hours later, if that car's still there, you've got a video of that car being there, which could be evidence for it. Just send an officer down and ticket it. He doesn't have to even go downtown. The dispatcher can watch and do it. If we have to get another camera, I'm sure we could pay for it pretty quickly.
I don't believe we have a camera pointed that way. We have one pointed this
We
way.
can get some from this corner here.
But
a
it
couple
has to be up
spaces.
there. I don't think we have anything pointed down
We
there.
got one this way, right? It points that way.
It points to the bridge.
The bridge, you can actually see.
I can see them when they steal my flowers.
Each subsequent
Yes.
violation in a
Or go
12-month
in-
period will increase the fine amount by $10 per violation. On everything, overnight, parked with intersection, blocking a driveway, no parking, sidewalk, everything.
I mean, very easily, without even much wiring, you could have a camera right on a post out here, Wi-Fi, because you could pick up on Wi-Fi from here and have a Wi-Fi camera right out there, and you could get the whole downtown, and just have a dispatcher. We could pay for the dispatcher's wages, and you wouldn't have to have the officer right there. And then people won't be doing the scramble, because you know the game.
Who's gonna write the ticket?
Some of the officers down, and you have the evidence of it.
Well, maybe you get a lot of same color shaped vehicles. Are you sure it's that same black pickup?
Sit there and watch the video for 2 hours if you don't believe it.
Well,
I
You
hope
gotta get
nobody
tough
has
on
that
that.
much
that's not the
time.
best use of resources.
If they're scrambling and moving cars, I would
Alright.
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Yep,
I mean,
just got it.
pressure on them.
Maybe they can talk to the owners
If
when they
not-
walk the streets.
If
like
not,
this
Abe
was.
will.
Are we still walking down the Main Street?
No.
Well, they can talk. Are they talking to the owners then?
Abe.
When the officers walk?
They do walk into the businesses, yeah.
But no one said, they haven't said anything about, can you park off of Main Street to
That's
allow,
what the meeting is going to be.
but what I'm getting at is I've been told we have officers patrol the downtown daily. It's like, and we've never discussed, it's like
Do they
parking's
stop in
just
and
come
talk
up.
when they patrol the off downtown?
I understand, but we have signs that say 2 hours, they know it's illegal, and we've told them many times before, why do we need to talk to them about it again?
Because they're not being ticketed.
It's a tough thing.
Well, you know, it's good to do it now because we have an influx of new businesses downtown. We have new owners in some of the businesses, and we have change of owners in some of the businesses.
They can't read English? I'm sorry. That's the way I feel about it. There's a sign right in front, 2 hours is 2 hours, no parking is no
I
parking.
have no words for that, I'm sorry.
It's been cold.
I,
I like to walk in the cold, walk through the snow, it's hot back there, I understand, but
There's one,
they wanted this. It was the merchants that wanted this. That's what makes me crazy.
I hate to spend the money on meters.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember the meter, we talked about meters for a while?
would make a lot of money,
Then you'd lose your patrons.
maybe.
Yeah, no, cards. No more, you can still change them, but mostly all card systems.
So, anyway.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for, I saw all the indictments.
Yeah.
That's nice. Very nice. Excellent work.
A good day, a safe day,
Yeah,
productive day. Neighbors came out and thanked us.
You
nice.
stay tomorrow. Till the court lets them back out.
And then somebody else takes over their business. It's crazy.
Thank you, Chief.
Just one hell and they come in, that's all.
No, she everything.
Okay.
So, at 6, we have selectmen's reports. Definitely. Waiting for that.
So at our sewer commission meeting last night, we discovered that, the information we purchased from the water district quarterly based on their water usage to bill our sewer has been incorrect for 21 Chestnut Street. In fact, they haven't used any water in the past year. So the selectmen will need to abate that amount. And then, of course, sewer commissioners will reimburse.
21 just,
21 Chestnut.
do we own that?
It's recently been purchased. I looked on the tax card today and it's still the same person that's owned it. But my understanding from Johanna is it was recently purchased and it was the new owner that discovered the mistake. You know, he came and checked and found there was a lien on it for the sewer. I said, how can that be? Hasn't been any water used at the building for a year. So
Shouldn't
Johanna
be.
went back through and looked at the information we purchased from the water district based on water usage and discovered that, you know, it was incorrect. It reported water usage. So, interesting, but housekeeping. Also, on the stipend policy, do we have a method to track absences? I'm asking this because I think we have noticed too in our minutes, we're human, that sometimes we report a selectman at a meeting who actually wasn't at a meeting. And last night at budget, we noticed that people who, not members, but other people who attended the meeting weren't part of the minutes. So I don't think we're gonna rely on the minutes to be an accurate report of attendance. So I don't know if we've thought that out.
But
Doesn't the
attendance of
chair
members, right?
of the committee take attendance?
I don't know that that is required throughout our boards and committees. We don't.
Usually the secretary writes who is in attendance.
Not all boards and committees have secretaries.
No, but when we, in
That-
the
they're
past, we've written to them and say how many has attended, and usually they give us a detailed most of them anyway. I know conservation, planning, budget have given us a detail to say, yes, this meeting, this is who was present, and this is who
And
wasn't
it's
present.
probably based on minutes. I mean, that's the point, we don't know.
Yeah.
I can tell you no
Might
one
be
at
right.
Parks takes attendance.
Huh.
Well, I write the minutes, so I report it in the minutes, but I'm not always
That's a
there.
good point. So we need, how do
To
we?
make sure the
I
minutes.
just became aware last night that, and I don't know why last night, because we've noticed on minutes.
So
before.
could we have the secretary,
I think every, one
Independence and
thing,
then an absent, make a list.
if the secretary emailed
but
Gail and she tracked it,
like I said, not all committees and boards actually have a secretary. I mean, they should, but the one thing that everyone does have is someone who conducts the meeting, which is the chair. And maybe that's where it should start.
Aren't all boards and commissions required to produce minutes?
Yes.
yes.
So,
But those minutes are not always accurate.
well, they should be. There's a problem if they're not accurate. They should be.
Well,
and
human.
We should
Even our
let
own
people to
minutes.
make sure that the attendance is
Right.
accurate. So creating another stream that has to be monitored, and maybe that person got it wrong, and this one didn't
Right.
submit it by that hour. Have to
So,
emphasize the
I
importance.
mean, we don't have to solve it tonight. I'm just bringing it up
Yeah.
because
think on it.
if I'm not at a park commissioners meeting, somebody takes minutes.
Give each board or commission a sheet, Parks Commission sign-in sheet, make copies each meeting, that's your attendance.
That's simple.
Conservation Commission,
And make
here's
it
yours.
clear.
Maybe if you bring this up, Gail, if you're listening, maybe you may have an idea. Maybe she may have a suggestion. She's extremely detail-oriented. She may have a solution to that.
The challenge is gonna be, I heard a suggestion that they send it, I don't know if you said it, send it to Gail, but, you know,
In an email.
yeah, but it's.
To me, it should be done at the end of the year,
The
maybe.
challenges we have
Yeah.
right now with boards and committees and making sure that they post their notice, that they do all the things they're supposed to do.
They
let
don't
alone-
all do that?
No, no.
They don't all use the camera.
They don't call and reserve space. We had that issue just happen the other night, as I understand. Sewer had to meet over there because zoning was here because somebody took over the space downstairs without checking the calendar to see who was downstairs. So it happens, and
To the camera point, the executive committee doesn't do the camera because we don't have a camera.
Well, you don't meet in this building, right?
Because we meet up there and to that point, but I don't know how to fix that unless we meet.
The one thing that
Well,
is
like I said,
required are the minutes, and there's no reason why, and we should be, just
Sandy's
check that
very
all minutes are
diligent about
submitted.
that.
And when they get submitted, that at the
Right.
top, it says the
Yeah.
attendance.
and that
That,
right
that's,
there is a whole nother
Yeah.
issue, is getting people to submit their minutes. And then with all the boards and committees and commissions, you know, who's tracking that?
But apparently now we can't send minutes in by, and I might be talking out of the corner of my mouth here. Apparently, our secretary of the executive committee cannot submit them by email to the town clerk any longer. We have to submit them, we have to keep a
She wants paper copies.
paper copy.
Right, you can submit them to Tim by email, who will put them
print
on
them
the
and hand
website.
them to her.
But the official copy to the town clerk, she wants in paper form because she still has to file it that way.
Which means she has to come here, ask somebody to print it, and then hand it to her.
Can I ask why?
I
You
don't
can't
know.
just hit print on a document, the button?
I
If
don't,
you don't have a printer, it's hard to print.
no, I mean the town clerk, if we
Well,
send it email.
if you think about it, if, that's a lot of printing, if all the committees send their minutes. I don't know, that's a question for her, I'm guessing.
So if she gets them and then scans them in,
No, she has to keep a
No,
paper
she
copy.
puts a paper, she needs a paper copy. The minutes.
That's
I don't
her
know
official record.
where they,
That's her official record,
yeah, the official record, she needs that.
but that's a question for.
I don't have the answer either. I don't know that.
Getting back,
Well, like I said, we don't
Attendance
have to
in
resolve
minutes.
this tonight.
I was gonna
We
say, nice
have
can of
great
worms,
minds.
Catherine.
We can work on it.
Yeah, let's work on
Figure
it. We can keep that on our
you
to-do
bring this
list.
up?
I did,
What's
I
next?
just, and I said, we don't have to resolve this
What's
tonight.
next in this can of
Okay.
worms?
I'm good,
Loyalty.
I'm done.
That's
I'm
good
glad I
enough.
saved it for last.
Yeah. Peter, can you top that?
I don't know, we asked Public Works to go around and check roads and all. I've noticed on at least one of the 3/4 ton truck routes, most intersections are funneling the wrong way. They're coming inward at the corners because they don't have a wing, and they turn wide, and they don't come back and push banks back. We've got an intersection on Route 3 that when the bus makes his right-hand turn, he is in the totally incoming lane in order to make the right-hand turn so that he doesn't hit the traffic and all, so.
Right.
I would say
Square off.
the whole town probably needs to
I was
reach out.
behind the bus when they had to do that.
The
Okay,
intersection of Brook Road and Silver Lake Road, there are times when you cannot make a left turn. I actually go down with my tractor because I do overwork at home and fix it.
Needs to square off the corners.
yeah,
Okay.
that's it, thank you.
Joe, thanks, Joe. And I'm next. That's about it. I was just curious, no frozen pipes up at the senior center, I've been losing sleep thinking about it.
No.
It's a lot of weight on my shoulders. Okay.
None,
Nice work, John.
That's
none.
good. I think
Emily
about it.
checked over the weekend, texted all of us, and none.
Now, are people's feet warmer? Okay.
Yeah,
Get
absolutely.
those warm.
It's been really
I've been
nice.
thinking about it.
They finished the kitchen floor, oh, I forgot
The
to put
pies
the-
are great too. That's all I have.
Wait till March for your frozen pipes too.
Yeah, there's no insulation.
Well, now when frost goes out, it goes down also, and that's what causes freezing.
So we talked about a vacant building and water about a week and a half ago. My neighbor the house is vacant, and they shut the water off. The pipe burst, and all the water from the water company, the water pipe came into my cellar, and I was pumping water for 3 days. And then they figured it out that it was the water pipe that was coming in. So if that water bill up to their house is astronomical, it's been vacant, the house has been vacant. But, so that's a little tidbit. I'm requesting a non-meeting to update you on negotiations.
We
And then
want to do that after, done.
after town administrator's report, just at the end. Because we're getting close, near to the end, and we need some answers.
Yeah, and I have a brief non-public before we do the non-meeting.
Yep.
Very brief, just need to update you on something.
That it, Pat?
That's it.
Excellent. No problem. Town administrator.
Okay, so you've got my report. I just wanted to hand out another draft of the warrant. According to Tim, who attended the budget committee last night, the budget committee, here are copies. Budget committee approved all the warrant articles with the exception of the sewer bond. They want to wait until after the public hearing, which is next week on the 30th. Also in the updated warrant article, I added clarifying language to the Tilton Senior Center ETF per the Department of Revenue Administration, and I've underlined that it's Article 5, underlined the language that was added. Basically includes building and any vehicles associated with the senior center. That was per DRA. And still outstanding is the CBA, which Pat will update you on later.
So we have 2 buildings there. Can we add this?
What's that?
We have 2 buildings on that property we own. Can we add an S to building? Buildings?
Buildings.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good catch, thank you.
Yeah. The budget committee approved all warrant articles,
Except for the
Except
sewer.
sewer. They're waiting on the public hearing.
and they tabled the CBA.
They want more information on the sewer
Okay, got it.
project.
To the extent the town establishes, seniors are expendable trust.
So I didn't know if you had any questions on the warrant articles.
Earlier, when we were talking to Jules about the lamppost, did you get that info that,
Yeah, I just,
could you kind of have one prepared just in case, the warrant article?
you want to put a warrant article in?
Well, we thought, just in case, just leave out the amount,
So you can,
because she has homework to do.
you can read the minutes too, like, we did discuss with her that there's a lot of additional work required than
You need to-
what's here, including talking with the electrician, getting bids for that, getting prices for that, and prices to actually dig the sidewalk and put cement footings in for the posts.
And so just for clarification, are you saying we are putting a warrant article?
We're
in?
not sure, she's going to see what she can get together, but if we have one ready, like a boilerplate for it, that we could just plug in the number.
She's got to work on that estimate because she's left costs out that we need for the article.
Okay.
But John's right, if we have a boilerplate one that we can put in and then put the numbers in, so we can submit last minute that we can put in.
Any questions on the warrant articles?
That's
So,
all.
the next item is the engagement letter from Divine Mill Net, and I understand, Tim talked to you a bit about it earlier. He said, this is the original.
I didn't see it in here for, it was in the to be signed thing, but I didn't, oh, we took it, okay.
Right, didn't want it to get lost, wanted to track it.
She hasn't dressed us.
No, I don't mean to say that. So, did Tim explain to you that this is adding language, that they redid the engagement letter to add language for bond counsel for sewer?
Mhm.
So it's pretty standard language. Tim and I did both look at it. It's been worked on a bit. There are 5 lines, 4 signatures. So while you're looking at, does anyone have any questions on that? Okay, so while you're looking at that, you've got the FYI, which I won't go through unless anyone has any questions, or I'll see you got your little water bottle there in front of you from the census folks.
I thought they were trying to hire us.
Yeah,
They are, actually.
So you'll see from the FYI that we get, New Hampshire gets more than 3.7 billion on federal funds based on census data, so it's really important for people to, stand up and be counted.
And they're doing a hiring application
Tomorrow,
tomorrow, 3 to,
at the
at
Family
the
Resource Center.
Family Resource Center, 3 to 5:30. They start at $20 an hour. You work on a Sunday, that's $25 an hour. I mean, and it doesn't affect your Social Security benefits. So, I mean, if you know of somebody that needs a part-time, 20, 30 hours a week, it's a temporary 3, 4, 5-month job. I mean, that's pretty good starting pay. It's a lot more money than I get as a bus driver.
I don't know, if I want to knock on people's doors to get census information.
Well, they've
Knock once,
actually,
knock twice, turn around and still get paid, Catherine.
they're actually making it easier now this year too.
Are they?
Online, you could go to your, you could do your census online, so they're doing other things to get people engaged.
Yep.
And being able to answer that without having to have somebody come knock on your door.
And they're looking for supervisors to do it, Catherine.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, The other thing I wanted to mention to you is we got a call from a resident, Patricia Andrew, to let the selectmen know, apparently there's a large stone in the cul-de-sac. I'm not familiar with it, but it's been there. It's the families. They have family history, I guess, on it, and they're gonna add their father's date of death on the stone and clean it up a little bit. They just wanted to let you know. And unless you have any questions for me, as I said, I'd like a brief non-public and.
I have yes. On the bridge. In the meantime, is there a suggested weight limit? Just bodies?
Yes.
And, I'm just thinking of the zombie walk and.
Yeah, that's all I'd be comfortable with. So one of the things that I was today was, and it says it in the FYI, I'm tracking down grant funding because this seems like a perfect opportunity for us to get some grant funding. This bridge is the only one of its kind left in the country, and it is on the National Register. And what I would like to do, thank you for bringing it up, Catherine, because I forgot to ask the board this. I'd like to get your permission to really seek out some grant funding so that we can get an engineer to study that, to tell us what kind of shape it's in, what kind of weight it can bear, and what are recommendations to rehab it if need be.
I'm all for that. Does need a couple repairs.
Have we let Northfield down?
No, you're my first stop.
Absolutely, I think it's a grand idea. It's a great bridge.
Okay, great, consensus. Any other questions for me?
I had one which almost got answered there. Where are we with that purchasing the island?
Good question. So, you all probably are familiar with the deed, that in the deed it conveys the property to Northfield and Tilton, and it lays out, I don't have a file with me, but it lays out 3 conditions, and one of the conditions says that the property can't be conveyed. So Northfield can't give it to us, or they give up their, if they try to give it to us,
Yeah.
it makes that condition of the deed
Null and void.
correct, or it makes that, right, and then it would go back to the heirs. And that's a concern with the attorney. I don't know if you saw that, Joy Tilton.
Yes,
Yes.
passed away.
Yes.
Yes. Has the funeral happened yet?
Guessbook.
So if that happens, it goes back to the heirs, and there's a concern about Tilton's kind of position as it relates to the heirs. So the attorney, I talked to him a couple days ago, and he is reaching out to Tom Donovan from the state of New Hampshire, it's the Trust Division, just to see if they can, I think, go down the pathway. Apparently, this was before me, and I'm sure you're all familiar with it, when there was a school that they conveyed over to Tilton,
Mm-hmm.
was it? So he's going down.
Church
Oh, a church.
in Northfield?
Yeah, okay, I thought it was a school. So anyway, he's going back to the state to say, all that work that was done, can we use that work in this situation, because it's all the same heirs, and move forward like that. So that's where we're at. It's not a easy process, and what he's trying to do is make it happen the way we want it to happen, the least expensive way.
Win-win. Thank you.
We knew it was going to be a little more than just sign a piece of paper. We did have an attorney that said, oh, it's all fine, just sign the paper.
Just sign, well,
You're all set. So,
I don't know if that's attorney.
That's great. Thanks.
I have one second thing. This, tax exemption application, the veterans tax grows, it's not completed at the top.
Oh, did you look at the whole?
I see that there's a phrase there, but it's not dated and amounted and yes and no at the top. And I'm a stickler for that.
So that really wasn't the original application.
It wasn't.
It was denied
Right.
based on not having the
Right, so now it's,
information.
now it's granted,
Yeah,
so shouldn't it be filled out?
well, we will get it filled out.
Eight. I am not gonna miss these.
So we're about to go into non-public. Anything? Oh, thank you.
Nice to have you.
Information here, thanks for coming down next week. Next week,
Yeah.
but
Have a good
Oh,
night.
it's a public hearing next week on the warrant articles.
yeah, oh, good.
On the bottom.
The bond. Sewer bond.
Oh, just the sewer bond?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Thank you, Greg.
That'd be great.
Somebody said-
You might be confused. There's also one in the paper for the budget, which is on,
It said January 3rd.
that's the sewer.
Everybody's watching this, we just want to clarify that on the 30th, it is for the sewer bond.
Yes. It's for the
Public
sewer.
hearing for the sewer bond.
I don't have the,
Are we putting up the,
public here, yes, it's already out.
When Peter comes back, we'll make a motion into the public, non-public, and, that is
Yes,
under,
yes, it has to do with, legal. Didn't I put it on
E.
I should copy this for the next meeting.
the, what?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no.
So it's,
Okay.
legal.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we go into non-public for RSA 91-A:3, paragraph 2E. Legal.
And
Second.
And also, we're having a non-meeting.
Yeah, but that's,
Okay.
I'll be, hang on.
Constantino, yes?
Dawson, yes.
Fogg, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Legal.
Okay, I make a motion that we seal the minutes of the non-public as they pertain to legal until the matters are resolved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
All those
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just trying to move